from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me from the US, Brian Corcodilos. Brian is based in the US. He is the CEO of Designblendz. I was telling you, Brian, before I hit the record button, I don't like to speak a lot on behalf of my guests, but just as a teaser for the audience, we're gonna talk about a lot about things we didn't discuss much on this show yet, related to design, related to 3D visualization, to innovation, to technology. But again, I don't want to steal the light from you, Brian. I will keep it to you. Tell us a little bit more about you, your background, your journey, and what brought you to where you are today. So the floor is yours, Brian.
Yeah, it's Mehmet, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. My journey started a long time ago now. I'm 35, but in my early preteen years, 10, 11, 12, I was playing video games very heavily, and very heavily before it was a cool thing to do, right? Today kids are playing video games and making millions of dollars. It's unbelievable. But I was playing video games, and I was actually playing professionally at a time when it wasn't cool, right? So I was involved in the virtual world way before people understood what it was or the powers of it and what it can do to not only you as an individual, but the masses. And I kept going. I played video games heavily. I played professionally. And it came time to figure out what I was going to do for college and someplace preparatory where, what am I going to go off and do in the world? And, I was playing, I was still playing games heavily, and, I was like, I don't like to read and write, I like playing video games. I like, the virtual world. And, I chose architecture as a means to go start studying. And, I got into architecture school, and it was at a time where, the hand drawing, everything that was being hand drawn was making its way into the computer, and AutoCAD was around, but it was still in its infancy. But the technology at the time that was emerging was known as BIM, which is building information modeling. And I became in love with that because essentially, my video gaming nerd side, I'm now building 3D buildings in this virtual world and putting them together and then visualizing them and watching them, and then watching them come to life in the real world. But what I saw was I saw where the world was heading, and I saw a time that people aren't just going to create buildings anymore. We have an ability now with technology to essentially understand them down to every almost nut and bolt going into them. Just like when you build a car or something technical on an assembly line, it's the same way in the computer. And obviously, building it, designing it, in that way, you also can visualize it to exactly what it's going to be. So there's no interpretation of what is that going to look like when it's built. And I'm surprised it took as long as it did for the building trade to get to that point, but that's now the standard. And people today want to know exactly what it's going to look like, what the experience is going to be. And not only that, they want their building coordinated in a virtual way that's going to eliminate change orders and waste during construction. So Designblendz, so I run Designblendz now, which is a 30-person company here in Philadelphia, PA. We have an internal architecture, interiors, and 3D visualization team with overlapping disciplines of, I have architects, industrial designers, animators, graphic designers, interior designers, all working together using the virtual world to inform the physical world at the highest levels. And we geek out, we nerd out right in the virtual world, but it's amazing to see our designs come to fruition. Some of the sectors we operate in, we're in the municipal government space. So we do municipal buildings, government buildings. We're working on fire stations. We do multifamily mixed use, hundreds of units. We'll do single family homes and everything in between on that front. Working on an ice cream store, right? We're within an arcade. So we get involved in a lot of different projects, but primarily they all have something unique, and that the owner's request is, they hire us because we use the virtual world better than most to inform the physical. And that's really what Designblendz is today. And that's what I've built out of my college dorm room.
You brought a lot of memories.
Yeah.
because I, of course, when I decided to study engineering, I didn't know, like, even I wanted to be a computer engineer, but they said, hey, you have still to learn AutoCAD.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw also the term BIM, I said, what is BIM? And
Yep.
then I started to speak to some of my friends who were like civil engineers, and they explained, and it's like a very cool domain to be in. And of course, I, always I say I wish I could have been a better designer, I would say, because I wasn't good at drawing or anything like this, or anyone that does this very good. I want to learn more, and I want to see like what's the passion behind it. And I'm happy like you shared the story. Now, jumping directly into the use cases with you, Brian. So, um, in your view, the current state of 3D visualization and virtual environment, how does it look like? Um, are you seeing like we're leveraging what the technology is allowing us to do to the maximum, or are we still lagging behind? And the reason I'm asking you, because I hear mixed opinions, and especially in markets where real estate mainly is
Yep.
like booming. I'm here in Dubai, in the UAE, and like this is a very high market now. Everyone want to be in the real estate. But the point of, yeah, like, is really a 3D visualization something that can actually show us the end product when it's built? So what's the status of
Yeah.
this field now, Brian?
It's a great question, because in the US here, right, when visualization was starting, like when I was back in, let's call it 2012, 2013, and I was doing visualization for other developers and architects, other companies were hiring us because they didn't have the technology or the know-how to do it. It was a nice to have at that time. It kind of set you apart, but it wasn't really always required. Then what happened was, as it continued to grow, like, no, we need to know what things look like. Townships and stakeholders started like, why can't we see? We know the technology is there, right? Everyone started watching those shows on HGTV and DIY Network, where you saw these like 3D things come on the screen, right, and show what things were going to be. That was the start of it back in that time, and it kept progressing and progressing to the point where we were on the forefront here in the States of we were creating the best visuals, literally, in the tri-state area. There was not a better rendering company than us. And we were continuing to go and go. What happened over time now, it's gotten to the point where with the AI technologies now, it's kind of leveled the playing field, where even if you don't have a lot of skill set, you can at least get some 3D visuals out of some of these technologies, right? Like BIM now has add-ons and things and software that has come out to make it easier to visualize than previously, how you'd have to export files out of it, bring it to other software, and then do your rendering, right? So a lot of technologies have progressed to just make it an easier process. What we've had to now do to literally stay ahead and keep innovating, we focus on quality and accuracy. So what happens when you create a rendering, right, and you're like, hey, here's your unit, your view out of the city, right? Well, there's been cases where real estate agents and developers have gotten sued because they're misrepresenting in a rendering what they're showing and what they're selling, right? You can't just put a picture out and say, this is what I'm selling, and it's not that in reality. So we've taken the approach that we said, hey, there's a ton of competition now for visualization out there. You can go to almost any third world country and get a rendering. It's crazy. But what those people can't do that we do here at the highest levels is the accuracy and photorealism. So let me give you an example. When we're working
Sure.
on a tower or visualizing a unit, right, that has a skyline view, we're not just making up that skyline view, right? We're sending out a drone We're hovering it at the exact height, could be 372 feet in the air, that matches that BIM environment, facing that view, grabbing it at the time of day we want to capture that most emotional point, and then superimposing that into our visualization, right? So, we're now not only making sure that the modeled area is accurate, right? Like the actual physicality of the buildings are accurate. We're actually ensuring that the real environment around that virtual world is 100% accurate to that. That's a massive differentiator because not everyone can do that well. The technology we're using is essentially what they're using to create movies with, right? So we've had to elevate our quality, our craft, our accuracy over our competitors, and keep innovating in that way.
Cool. Now let me ask you, because you mentioned this and you took some of the point but that's fine, of course. Um, you mentioned about like, okay, like anyone can do, these kinds of out maybe computer generated image renderings, right?
Yeah.
CGIs, as they call it. Um, for me, as someone who might come to you and tell you, Brian, like, tell me how I can distinguish between a mere pretty CGI rendering versus, a visualization work that actually adds value. So what I should look at exactly? Should I, you know, look at something which is trying to let me save on my cost? Is it like, should I see something that reduce my risk? Is it something that would allow me to take better decisions? Like,
Mm.
how do you define, this distinguishment between, the both things that I just mentioned?
Obviously there's always the first thing I always ask a client is, what's your end goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to achieve? And most of the time when we're doing visualization, right, for real estate developers, they either want to sell something, they want to lease something, right? Or they want to raise money for something to put a project together. So we're always trying to pinpoint what's the emotional and differentiator piece about your project. And then we're going to show that at the best time of day with the right entourage and event happening, down to, what's like, what angle is the sun at, right? Like we want to make sure that every factor is showing the best point of that project at all times. Because not a lot of times do we get to do animations and movement, right? If we just get that one shot and we get that one opportunity for that still shot that's going to be on a billboard or it's going to be on the front page of a website, we have to make sure that it's the best moment that we can physically show how that building is going to be operating. And that's usually a conversation. Like, we just did a
Mm-hmm.
project. It's a big mall conversion, right? But, where we're converting, it's got 16 uses, multifamily coming in right there. It's an old mall in America that there just doesn't work anymore, right? No one goes to the mall, at least the older ones. So we had to show a time where this mall is converted, but we're showing like an outdoor farmers market happening at the time, the streets shut down with all the new architecture. So to sell that emotion, to showcase what it could be at its height, right? Where there's
Mm-hmm.
thousands of people enjoying the space during a festival, right? Like but instead of just showing the buildings and showing some cars parked outside, right? That's cool, but that's not the
Mm-hmm.
highest and best height of what that space could truly be for the end users. So we're always
Right.
trying to identify that, and having that intersection with architects, interior designers, urban planners in my office, right? Their thought process to get there is much quicker than just, hey, here's someone that'll do a rendering for you, right? We're problem solvers, and we want to solve that problem for the client at the highest level.
I love this approach. Now you mentioned you just gave us the example of the tower and the drone and all this. There must be some, I'm not sure if the term should be like technical challenges or like, is it workflow challenges? Like, what are some of these challenges that usually might appear in, such large scale, um, you know, uh, real estate projects? So of course you're gonna build that in the virtual environment. So what could be some of these challenges? Is it like location constraints? Maybe, I don't know,
Mm.
like
Well,
data constraints. What
What
what that look
what's
like?
funny is, especially speaking on the drone stuff, some of our projects, right, our drone op, we had a drone at one point, and we got rid of that because as our projects progress, you have to start reaching out to airports and things to get permission, right? And then there's
Right, of course.
licensing and all that. So we've had some instances where like you can't fly that because it's too close to this thing, or the government, like we're doing
Yeah,
government
no
work,
fly zone.
can't put a, yeah, exactly, no fly zone stuff. But and the other challenges too, when you're out there, you're trying to capture that right moment, right? If it's bad weather, if it's raining, if it's right. So, the physical world isn't always captured in real time everywhere on the planet quite yet. It will be someday. But like, I
Right.
can't go and get that right moment for the real world right when I need it. That's a challenge, right? So that's always something that we have to anticipate, especially if we're going for these high end, pictures, right? We need to give the client enough warning, like, hey, like we might need a month to capture that right moment outside that then works with the virtual world, right? So that's really some of the challenges. The constraints just in flow and how we make these images. It's a pretty standard process, a back and forth between a client. Obviously, we get their drawings, we're modeling it 3D, we're sending draft views, we're going back and forth on finishes, and it's an iterative process, right? But the end result's always the same, and it's an emotional storytelling masterpiece, and that's what we're going for every time with the virtual delivery of assets. We need to sell.
Right.
It's all about that emotional sell. You need someone to see that and be like, I want to either be there or I want to buy that.
Got it. Now, how, you know, big or small role the immersive technologies like AR, VR, XR, like every day we're hearing like new names.
I nerd out over this stuff. This is like, because my true skill says I'm a visionary, right? I could be a visionary in any business, but I just love the passion of the virtual world because I grew up in it, right? Like I was the first in there. I was raiding dungeons and playing first person shooters before anybody, right? Like that was me.
Oh yeah, I should let my daughter later talk to you like she said this.
Honestly, I could be a niche. A lot of parents bring on their kid because they know my background. They hear about it. I feel like I could inspire more people talking about that stuff too. But yeah. But on the fact of, I'm sorry, what was the question? It was around.
Yeah. So how much like AR, VR,
Sorry.
XR, it plays role in your domain and how it's evolving
So let me
in the
tell
use
you,
cases.
because for me, the challenge for me is always looking at like, how's it work today, right? Where my skill set is, I know how it's about to be working, and I've predicted it every step of the way. So for example, when Apple came out with their Vision headset, right? Like
Mhm.
I must have got, I don't know, 10, 15 texts that day. Like, Brian, did you see that thing? Brian, did you see that thing? You mentioned that like a decade ago. Like, can you believe they put that out? Like, what? I said, yeah. I went and tried it. I was like, this is going to be a flop. And people are like, what? It's Apple. This thing isn't going to. I'm like, it's going to be a flop. This is not what's needed for the mass market. This is not it. This is not it. Not even close. And everyone's
Mhm.
like, you're full of shit. Literally, this past week, I don't know if I can curse on the show. I'm sorry. But
It's okay.
this last week, what happened? Meta just crushed them. Apple shuttering their Vision Pro again,
Mm.
right? And when I said to him, I said the immersive AR needs to be a free flowing thing, right? You can't give up your real vision. It has to work over top of it, and things need to be supplemented in augmented reality on top. When the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality is immersing you where you take away your complete vision and now you're in something new. That is not a reality. Us as humans get motion sickness. I've tried it with multiple clients. It's just not a long-term real solution. It works for 10, 11, and 12-year-olds that I could relate to back when I was that age growing up with it, right? But AR is what's going to be for the masses. And you're seeing that right now with Meta's glasses they put out. It's a super success. It is a cool product. It enhances your day-to-day. It allows you to be more efficient and just, move a little quicker, right? Not by running, but by like getting back to people, staying up to date with the world, right? The Vision
Yeah.
Pro doesn't do that unless you're sitting on your couch eating popcorn, right? It doesn't allow you moving and keeping going in the world. You're kind of stuck and you don't really know what's around you. So the AR technologies is where we're seeing and where we're investing our time and energy on what's next, right? Like I talk with people, they're like, Brian, where's the future of real estate in the built world? Like what's going to be happening? I said, look, you're eventually going to be walking down a main street corridor somewhere in the world, right? You're going to look through that beautiful glass window on the front of the building. You're going to look inside at a bar or restaurant. You're going to see people in there, happy hour, drinking, cheersing, having a good time. You're then going to walk through that front door to go meet in that experience, and there's going to be nobody in the place. But the moment you get in there, you're going to say, oh, first drinks on us with a purchase of an appetizer, your world will start changing. You may even find other people that augment in front of you from other places in the world to create a bar-like experience within that built environment. And what I've said to people, like, what is Designblendz doing? How are we going to be part of that? Eventually, you're not going to be able to just hire an architect to do your building. You're going to need to hire, a design strategist, a design technologist that understands how the built and virtual world work hand in hand, because that's the way the world's moving, right? Now you're sitting in that restaurant, you're looking across the bar and you're like, what are those whiskeys on the shelf? I know it's brown. I see the brown liquid, but like, what is that one? I never heard of that. Then you're going to look at it, you're going to focus, it's going to pop up in front of you in an augmented way and say, oh, that's whiskey from Kentucky. That bottle's from 1840. It's $1,000 a glass, right? Like, that's how the world's going to come very rapidly in front of us.
Yeah, it looks to me while you were describing that, although like I have respect to Apple, but yeah, I felt with this one they were trying to, like when they say you put the cart in front of the horse,
Yep.
and it's like it's trying to find a solution for something that doesn't exist, right? So they were trying to find use cases, and I was skeptical, like you, and I think yeah, you and me were right because it's and people to your point, and I'm gonna come back to this maybe later. Um, so they want something that also it's not like just they want the coolness of the technology, right? They want to see real action, real use cases out of it, just not the
Yep.
coolness of that. So this is where
It needs to
things
be practical, right? Like, who would have
exactly,
thought that this device you could run your whole business on?
exactly.
That's why it's
It's important,
successful. That's why any company can make one of these and continue it, because
right?
right now this is where you run your business on. Eventually, this is going to be outdated and you're going to run your business from up here looking out.
I can see that, talking to a lot of people on the show, and now you are one of them. I can
Mhm.
see this. Now, let's talk a little bit about, more technology and innovation, right?
Yep.
You mentioned AI, Brian. Now, what exact role are you seeing AI is being able to play in the visualization or design pipeline? Is it like automation? Is it like kind of a co-pilot designer with you? What are like some
Yeah,
of the things
great
you're
question.
seeing?
So, look, I can't speak to every industry, right? I know how it's
Sure.
affecting my company and my industry right now because we're, innovations in our core values and never settle. We're always trying to figure out how to do things quicker, better, higher quality, better experience for our customers every day and how we do things. And every year I give a presentation to my staff. And in this year's presentation, I said, guys, one of the things we have to make sure we triple down on this year is understanding and learning is AI. I said, I don't want anyone in this room to be afraid that AI is going to take their job, because it's not, at least in our industry at the moment. I said, but what will take your job is somebody utilizing AI. And like, you can see
Hmm.
like people be like, wait, what? What do you mean by that? And then I went on to elaborate. I said, we need to just be more efficient with our time, right? We know what's the funnest part about, architecture is the design portion, right? Figuring out, making things really cool and not worrying about whether the door is exactly 3 feet or 1 meter. Right? I know I'm talking to an international crowd, right? But those things, the monotonous parts of the design process are what we're focused on getting AI to help us eliminate. And that's where, like, for example, if I get a request for proposal, right, for a municipality, and they send me 100-page document, right, I can utilize AI to very rapidly strip that document down to the pieces that I need to understand to be more effective about my submission back to that municipality to try to win that job. When somebody sends my team a question about our drawing set, I want to be able to query my chat bot that has all of our drawing sets and prior RFI questions built into it to maybe craft a response that's 90% accurate, and just needs a little thought to move it forward, not have to have someone spend 3 hours trying to figure something out when it could be done in 3 minutes. That's where I see AI enhancing not just my industry, but a lot of industries for the time being. But the unfortunate part is I don't even think the masses at this point they know about it, but they're not using it to their advantage quite yet. I've automated my email. Like, I barely do email any longer. I do email. I probably deal with 10% of an email now. because I have
Yeah.
AI craft it to a point where I just read it and say, oh, change that word, send. Right.
Right.
Instead of sitting there trying to craft a creative email, I've now allowed AI to just do that for me and sort my inbox, doing what it essentially an executive assistant would do for me.
Absolutely. What about the design part, Brian? Like,
Yeah,
I
great
can't
question.
remember the yeah.
So
I think
I, I,
there's a couple of attempts. I would say I can't remember the website. I'm sorry for that, but it's one of um, a couple of these solopreneurs on the internet who does this. So they created these websites where you can, for example, give the photo of your room, right,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
then it will create kind of a design how the room will look like, or
Yeah, of
maybe
course.
yeah, we saw like these kinds of things. um
So what I would say to that, right? I look at those things and I say, wow, that's amazing. How could I look at something like that and incorporate that into our standard process for a design project? And I'll give you an example because we are doing it similar. When we get to let's just say we're doing an apartment building, right? And we get to the massing phase where like, all right, we know the height that this thing can be, the width, the depth. We understand where we want some offsets. We understand where we want to make some green space and open space in the project. Okay, hey, Mr. Client, I'm curious, what types of materials do you like? Do you like brick, metal, right? Glass, right? The standard. Oh, I want to use this ephes. Okay. What we'll then do is we'll take those comments and we'll bring it back to the design team and use AI to create 100 iterations of facade ideas, right? Then we narrow it down internally. We might present 10 of them to the client and we say, hey, all right, we know you like this. What are your thoughts? And the client's going to go, wow, I really like that. And I like that. And it gets us to an end result much quicker, as opposed to my team spinning and generating their own ideas around whatever they believe. We now at least have a better formatted direction. Now we take those things and now we get to go have fun because we know what the client wants, and then we can get it there even better and quicker and
mhm.
more effectively. That's the way we're using it, and just that's one way. But like again, it's enhancing the experience for the client, making us more effective, and allowing us to have more fun on projects.
Right.
Because
Now,
no one
yeah,
likes working on something for 16 hours, right? Like, oh, let me make 10 iterations of the design. Gonna spend 2-3 days doing it just for the client to be like, no, I don't like that. That hurts. That hurts designers at the core.
absolutely, absolutely. I can relate. Like, no one want someone to tell his work or her work. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't like it. Absolutely. Now, from your experience and mainly real estate and like this this sector is considered a very old and traditional industry, right?
Yep.
um what do you think, or have you seen the risks or the pitfalls when pushing tech too fast at once to a traditional industry, such maybe architecture, design, real estate? And how do you manage that tension that might happen between people who would be pushing back, no, I don't want technology, versus no, like showing the real value of what you're trying to achieve with the tech?
Yeah, fortunately, we've gotten to a place, Mehmet, where it's needed, right? Like in the
Mm,
early days, I can relate to that question because it was like, I don't need to pay thousands of dollars for visualization until, you show the results, right? Everyone's their own pessimist until they become an optimist when they see it, right? Majority
mhm,
of people are sheep owls. They need to understand, like, they got to see it and then they're going to buy it, right? So one of the things that we started seeing early on with throwing technology into the real estate space here with visualization was a lot of our clients started selling projects pre-construction, literally before they put a shovel in the ground, right? So traditionally, how real estate was handled, right, where, oh, we're going to build a spec home or a couple of them, and then you're going to walk them and you're going to buy them. Early on, I'm talking back in like 13, 14, 15, we were doing visualizations to where some of my clients were pre-selling new construction over 50% of the project before they started. So we then showed those results. Then everyone started, well, wait, I want to talk to that person. And then they started realizing it's a reality. And I think you have to kind of show it. Now here's the flip side of jamming too much technology and things too quick when the market's not ready for it. Look what just happened to
mhm.
crypto and the blockchain, right? You have
Right.
the whole NFT space, right? That was what's crazy is that is needed. It's going to be here. It was just way too rapid, way too quick, way too ahead of people's perception of the reality of the world. But I can assure you that's going to rapidly come back here as all this AI technology creates deep fakes and keeps pushing out content that we don't know what's real and what's fake. You're going to see that technology reemerge and actually become the gold standard to know what's real and what's not real in this world.
I 100% agree with you. And now I'm having these discussions with people, and you know, like I blame ourselves, and I don't want to finger point to specific people. Is that we create hype, and people, you know, they when they see like hype, usually they overreact, and they, yeah, as you said, like they try to avoid it. Like it happened to many things, like blockchain and cryptos is one of them. I think AI is somehow, to your point, it became a necessity, but in some areas still, like we have, oh, like don't tell me yet another AI thing that's happening there. I don't want to hear about it anymore, right? We have, unfortunately, and I was discussing this in like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and again, you know, I don't know. We can't stop this, you know. And I,
Yeah.
by the way, I understand content creators. People consider me as a content creator. Yeah, the podcast is a, for me, you know, is a passion, is, you know, a way of spreading knowledge, you know, learning from industry leaders like yourself. But I mean, you know, putting these FOMO effects and, you know, like these things, and let people think. I think people are tired and bored from that. They want to hear like authentic things. They want to
Yeah.
listen to real use case scenarios that they can relate to. So to your
Well,
point, yeah.
and my bigger fear too for a lot of people pushing AI, and we're very careful with how we put out like blog articles and things, because my
Uh-huh.
fear is what's about to happen is, you know, the AI agents are going to start, like, you know, you think just because you're writing blogs, you're building your website SEO. I actually think it's going to get to the point where it's going to know whether it's AI built or actually a human being built, and that the algorithms are going to start separating the two, right? People that don't want the AI content consumption, that's going to go away. It's just going to become noise, right? And what's
Right.
going to actually become valuable are actually the people talking again. And so I think there's
Right.
going to be a yin to the yang of all of it, right? No, like I made a post actually on LinkedIn yesterday because I, you know, talking about how email's dead. Like literally, email's the first major technology is about to be replaced by AI. Like hands down, it is gone. There's no need to do your email anymore. You're wasting your time if you're sitting there for hours a day doing your email. It's already
True.
been AI outsourced. But I said, and I made a PS. I said, if you're using long dashes and emojis in any sort of text, I don't believe it's real. And I, like people were loving, like it was funny, right? Because that's what AI does when you craft articles. It adds fun emojis, long dashes. Like who types like that? Nobody, right? And then I had
Yeah.
one guy's like, "Oh, I've been using long dashes," and I reply back. I said, "Yeah, I still don't think your stuff's real, then." Right? Like it's what's happening, right? So that authenticity is going to drive businesses more than ever, right? And then what I mentioned to you, the blockchain portion, like there's going to be people that someday create content about me talking, but it's not me, right? Like the deep fakes. We're going into this era of like deep fake virtual imagery and animations and conversations. It's a scary place, in my opinion, to go. But I actually think the only thing that's going to save it is the blockchain, because you're going to know that that source is authentic,
True.
right? Like if you
100%.
see these news companies, Russia news, all the right, whatever's out there, no one actually knows. There's no
Absolutely.
truth, or who knows? Is it another government saying stuff to people? Like what's truly
No one
gonna,
knows.
right? No one knows. You don't know if it's real. We're literally at a point where you don't know if that thing is real, right? Like, you know, and what's interesting, the virtual or the videos of things, right, and images of things have always defined history, have always defined what happened, right? Did JFK really get shot? Yes. Oh, he did. We saw the video. But now what's scary is you don't know if that video is real or
It-
not. And
yeah.
to the common eye, I can pick it out like this because I've been in the space. But there's people that think that stuff's real still. And that's a scary place for society to be. And I believe rapidly you're going to see blockchain implementation into almost our everyday life.
100% agree. I can promise the audience one thing. Both Brian and myself, we are real guys. It's not our
Yeah,
avatar.
I am real. I don't know how I'm real.
uh, you know,
I'll
because
show my hands because the AI can't do the fingers, right? Like that's they
oh,
like I have
it's
5
getting
fingers here, not 6 coming out.
it's getting better. It's getting better at that. Yeah, yeah. Now, joke aside, Brian, and because you come from I mean, not from there, but you used to play a lot of video games, as you were mentioning in the beginning. Now, one thing people still didn't understand, myself, or I understand it, like about virtual real estate, right? And so people sometimes they are calling them the metaverse, digital twins, call it whatever. Do you think, like, of course they are used today in marketing, they're used today in promoting. Do you
Yeah.
think these digital twins, metaverse, can become real? I mean, real assets where you
They
and me we can go and buy.
They will, and here's where it is. So, like, I don't know, Mehmet, like you meant, like, there's a platform out there called Decentraland. I own some Decentraland in my blockchain tech, right? Like, I own virtual real estate and some of these platforms when that NFT space was going on. And essentially, what it was is you hop into this world, right? You can build things on your parcel, and people can come by and see your parcel. It was cool. Like, people were using it as like a portfolio piece. Like, there was artists in there, promoting their work on their websites and things. You go and it was an interactive experience, a different way to experience, essentially web 3, right? We're now web 4, right? Moving past it, right? So it
Yeah.
was a different experience. That's what these virtual worlds were. But here's if I was the common person thinking, well, who's going to win, right? Yeah, there was at one point there was MySpace, right? Then there was Facebook, it was called the Facebook. Then it's Facebook, right? Like, what you're going to see is the conglomerates are going to be in charge, right? Facebook is not going anywhere. I would not be betting against them anytime soon. If anything, I'd be buying Facebook stock like I was buying Nvidia stock back in 2016, right? Like,
Oh.
right? You want, I believe Meta and Mark Z over there at Zucks, I think he has the platform and ability to build the virtual real estate space. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't know if you've seen the articles like, oh, people are going to put, something up in space and you're going to see it like a digital billboard up in the space. Back to that augmented reality that I mentioned previously, right? That's the world that's going to be the virtual real estate, right? And those platforms are
Mm,
going to control that virtual real estate because if it's the Meta glasses, I'm now in the Meta universe. I'm now in the Meta Decentraland to some extent, right? Or I take that off and now I put on the Google glasses. Now I'm in the Google metaverse, right? Take that one off and I put on what's next? The NVIDIA one. There might be an NVIDIA one, an NVIDIA metaverse, right? Those are the platforms that exist to get that out there. And back to what I do, right? I'm just trying to be the Angry Birds app of that platform. That's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm not trying to build that platform, but I'm trying to be someone that can help integrate within those platforms when that time comes. And I'd say it's coming within the next 5 to 10 years, mass adoption of it. Because the people that have that are going to be at a very competitive advantage. When I can walk past somebody and say, oh, that's Larry. I know Larry, right? Not having to remember that it's Larry. Oh, that's Larry's wife. That's Sheila. I know Sheila. So now I can go up and have a conversation like, hey, Sheila, good to see you. And she's like, how did he remember my name? It's because my augmented reality just showed me Sheila's LinkedIn icon next to her face with
right.
augmented reality. Like, that technology is already here and being tested. It's going to be adopted here within years.
Yeah.
Like, I think 5 years could be a lot. I think within 3 to 4, we could literally see Meta glasses get to a point where, like, if you don't have Meta glasses, you're already behind in conversation.
Exciting time ahead, so I would say. And so you said like you're 35, right, Brian? So for me, I'm 45, and I can't remember, at least since I start to understand what's going in the world, like more exciting times than the times that we are living in
Yeah,
now,
it's wild.
where everything is changing on daily basis. And like before, I used to argue with people, no, this cannot happen, this needs like 10 years until now. Even I stopped on the show, and my luck is I start the podcast just, I think, 1 month after ChatGPT came out to the world. And I stopped asking the question that people ask, what trends we should see in the coming 5-10 years.
Trends. That's a
and
funny word.
and no, okay, so there are trends, but I asked current trends. I don't ask future,
All right,
because I tell people that we can't predict future anymore.
all right,
Yeah.
let me tell you a current trend in the AI space that I would just be careful of it today. Like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned previously, you're seeing these solopreneurs come up with like, oh, this AI thing does this.
Right, right,
Let
right.
me let me tell you what's about to happen to all those AI things does this. You're just gonna need one. And it's gonna do everything. If I want to start a podcast, I'm going to go to my chatbot and say, hey, schedule Mehmet to come on my podcast between this time and this time, set up a StreamYard, and, you know, make sure you
Oh
queue up
yeah.
the editing to happen after. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah. 100%.
But I don't need the AI to do my podcast. I don't need my AI email bot. I will need one source. And
Absolutely.
that's the scary part, because now everyone's going to have access to that one source. The challenge is going to be, you know, can you afford the $200 a month ChatGPT or the $20 a month ChatGPT? That's where the differentiator is going to be happening, because I can assure you the paid version of ChatGPT does things that the unpaid can't. I'll give you a real example. I had someone in my office create a logo. They had left and I couldn't figure out the text. Well, I asked the same question to the unpaid version of ChatGPT. I said, hey, take this logo. What's the text that they used to create this logo? It couldn't give me a real answer. I then took it to the $20 paid ChatGPT version, asked the same prompt, same image. It found the text. So that's what's going to be scary. So the current trend to watch out for is, don't get so caught up in these solo projects that, like, oh, this AI thing's going to change my life. Very shortly, it's all going to be together. It's just you're going to figure out which one you can afford to be better. You're going to have the $0 one to the $20,000 a month one. Mark my words.
We started to hear about this, you know. We
Yep.
started to hear. I'm sure OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they of course they are preparing us. So they raise it from 20. I mean, for the Pro one, and then you have, you know, the $200 one. And funny how all of them they they use the same price tag almost, which
Yeah.
is, you know, and I think this is just a framing for us to prepare for what's next.
But think of business owners, right? Like, what's happening, right? If you're an executive assistant right now, I'd be worried. I would very much be worried,
Oh yeah.
right? But if you're a business owner, could you buy the executive assistant bot, and what does that cost you compared to the cost of having an executive assistant? I'm talking, it's going to get to the point where I have a fake avatar that's showing up on Zoom calls, screening people for my jobs, and you think it's a real person, but it's not.
Oh
That's
yeah,
about to happen,
100%. 100%. And
right?
now, you know, they started to, you know, OpenAI announced their agent framework. And this is exactly, you know, it's a Jarvis moment where, like, you have someone, you just, as you mentioned, like, ask anything you want to do, regardless of what is it, and it would be able to go and figure it out.
Yep.
So this is coming. And by the way, you know, and this is for the audience, you can go back, I think, 2 years or more. The first time I start to see people working on these agents and, you know, automating AI and letting, like, multiple AIs speak together.
Yep.
And I said, guys, mark my word, this is the future. And everyone, like, was laughing, like you are like you're watching too much sci-fi. I said, guys, it's not sci-fi. Like, it's something that is possible. You just need someone to come and put it all together. That's it. So,
Yep.
Brian, I want to ask you something not related to tech, but something related to, you know, scaling the business.
Yep.
And Designblendz grown significantly, based on my research. Like, appeared on the Inc. 5000, and it's not. It's like it's milestone. So, what was the hardest part in scaling the business? Was it like finding talent? Was it the culture? Was it the quality?
Yeah.
What was that?
Look, the funny thing about Mehmet is, like, I just big, everything's hard, right? Nothing good comes easy, right? But
The hardest.
I'm gonna tell you the hardest, because I also mentor a lot of entrepreneurs getting out of the gate, wanting to do something. They're one person, maybe two. How do you get to that next level? And I say, the one thing I've learned quick, and look, I have mentors that have guided me, right? I didn't figure it all out on my own, right? That's the passing of the torch. If I look back at all my experiences of how I grew fast, and I said the times I grew best is when I let go. And what do I mean by that, right? I joke now with clients about letting go, right? Like, I
Yeah.
literally at a networking event last night. I have my favorite line. I said, my team doesn't let me pick the brick colors anymore, right? Like, you know, I've learned to delegate and allow other people to do things. And that's the only true way to scale. And I see most entrepreneurs, they can't get out of their own way. They're literally the biggest inhibitor of their own success. What they need to be focused on is, to your point, building the team, building the culture, and the vision of where you're heading, right? If you do that correctly, you build the right team, you have the right vision and right culture and core values, it runs itself to some extent, right? But, like, my team is working on 200 some projects out behind this wall here. I maybe know about 5 or 6 of them because they're the largest ones. I'm involved in the largest ones, right? The client relations, things like that, making sure that we're not going to screw them up, watching things from a high level on the 6 largest. But if I had to worry about 200 of them, there's no way I'm going to go from 30 people to 50 people to 100 to 1,000 people someday in national firm, right? That's the biggest challenge and the hardest thing for any operator to do is figuring out a way to remove themselves from the day-to-day. And it is not easy. There's no magic pill. There's no therapist you can talk to. I can assure you that. It's just something you have to constantly know and work towards trying to achieve it and try to get 1% better a day and compound that interest. And that's the best thing I can tell any entrepreneur that's trying to grow and scale. You got to learn to delegate. You got to learn to remove yourself because you are the biggest inhibitor of your own success.
You you nailed it, I would say, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs, like you're a practitioner also, Brian. I consider you a practitioner in a way because you had the passion for
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
and
I
you
used
built
to
the
do the
company.
renderings. I used to do the work.
Exactly, exactly. And I know how tough it is to give some of the things that we think, oh, we are the best to do it. I won't trust anyone other than me doing that. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs fall in this trap where they are not able to delegate, to your point,
Yeah.
and they get stuck. And I think here, what I sensed, from our conversation today, you put a lot of trust in your team.
Mhm.
You trust also your guts that I selected the right people to work with me, so I don't need to go and check on them like
Correct.
every single moment, right? So, and I think this is one of the main traits of successful entrepreneurs that you had. You know, anything you want to add on that thought, Brian?
Well, look, I think down to you got to be careful about the trust piece, right? Because you could say you trust your people, but are you over their shoulder worried about the size of a font on a document, right? Are you micromanaging them to the point where like they don't feel like they're trusted? You got to be careful about that. The one thing I would say to that point to trying to help to get someone out of the doing and then working on growing, right? Because my team doesn't want me doing because they know if I'm doing, we're not finding the next project. We're not moving the firm forward. We're not scaling or looking to acquire the next company, right? Because I'm focused on that brick color. Does that make sense?
Right.
Well, one of the things what I do and my leadership team does here at a high level is we manage expectations, not people. The
Love
expectation
it.
is that this deliverable is done at this date and at my desk for review on this date and this time. I don't care how long it takes you to do it. I don't care if it's 1 hour or 100 hours. It needs to be here at this time. Here's the expectation. And those expectations are realistic, right? Don't get me wrong. We're not trying to create unrealistic expectation, but if the expectation is realistic and that expectation doesn't get met, then there's a conversation. You don't need to have a conversation unless that expectation isn't being met. But what some solopreneurs are doing, and as they're trying to grow, they're not setting realistic expectations for their team to actually hit.
Right. It's like the vibe coding thing, right? So you just try to do things, but yeah, I like, you manage expectations, you don't manage team. Now let me ask you, Brian, plans for expansion, whether nationally, internationally?
Yeah. Great question. Look, one of the it's I look at as you can look at it as a detriment or an opportunity. Obviously, I'm always a glass half full type of guy, right? But right now in the architecture industry, it's a scary place to be, and here's why. Back in 2008, right, the world went to
World, yeah.
massive economic catastrophe, right?
True.
Fortunately, at that time, that was my freshman year of college into architecture school. So, but I was having professors come into the world going, yeah, I just got laid off today. This is my only job. I'm teaching a class 3 days a week, right? I got laid off. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, living in a bubble at college. I don't know what's going on in the world. All I see is my professors coming in and getting laid off. Well, what happened during that time, right? If you go back to 2008 realm, a lot of architects and designers left the profession completely. They went off and never came back as things got better. They couldn't afford to sit around for 3, 4, 5 years while the economy started coming back again from that. So what that created is a massive gap in the architectural industry. So if I want to hire someone with 20 years experience right now that can manage projects, those people are not easy to find because there's so few of them. Because of that gap that was created back in '08, I now need someone, 20, 25 years experience. They're hard to come by. And that age range right now is someone in that 40 to 55 zone.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost they're almost irrelevant compared to the mass amount of older architects from 55 to, towards retirement. And then also the ones from 23 just graduated college to, 40. There's an oversupply. That in between is missing, and that's the ones you really need to help grow the firms, because you need that middle management level where they've had the experience, they can train the team, they can educate the staff, get the younger staff up to speed, and then learn still from the older staff and keep growing up to that principal level. So there's a massive issue right now in the industry. I don't know if it's globally. Obviously, I just look what's happening in my area here. But what I'm doing to get around that is, the only way I know I'm going to truly scale long-term and grow is do that through acquisition and do it through M&A space, buying up firms of operators that might have 5 to 10 people. They're at their last sprint, right? They're like, I'm done after this. Those are the firms that I'm looking to identify, to acquire and roll under our umbrella to keep, moving to other cities and continue to grow here in Philadelphia.
Good to know. Brian, we can go for hours and hours. Your discussion with you is really, I would say, giving some flavor to the podcast, because I like the way you also not only answering, you're just trying also to give us a holistic view about your industry and about the technology innovation as well. Final classical traditional question: where people can get in touch?
Awesome. There's a few different ways. If you come to me via email, there's going to be an automated response, but it'll send you a booking link. That's Brian at designblendz.com with a Z at the end, Designblendz with a Z. Honestly, the best way to reach me, and I always get back to people because I just like the way it formats, is on Instagram. You can follow me at Corcodilos on Instagram. Send me a direct message. I will set up a time, send you a booking link. We'll get together and chat for 15 at a minimum. And then obviously, if you're interested in seeing what our company does, just go to www.designblendz.com. Take a look at some of the cool virtual and physical things we're working on in the world.
Cool. For the audience, you don't have to go and look around. I'm going to put all the links that Brian mentioned
right down below, right?
Yeah, in the show notes. So it depends where they are consuming this episode. If on any of the podcasting apps, it's in the show notes. If on YouTube, you're gonna see it in the description below, as you mentioned. Exactly. And this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. If you just discovered us just now by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, give me a small favor: subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. We're trying to do an impact with this podcast, bringing thought leaders, entrepreneurs like Brian from different domains. Like today, we talked about visualization and all the things that Brian told us about AR, VR, and also like how blockchain gonna play a role in avoiding deepfakes in the future. So you can see we're trying to add value here. I appreciate your help if you can spread the word. And if you are one of the loyal fans, thank you very much for your support. I can't thank everyone enough because I'm repeating myself every episode. I know you must get bored from me by this time. We are not leaving a week without the podcast being in the top 200 charts in the Apple Podcast Entrepreneurship category in one of the countries. So we keep changing countries. And this cannot happen without people are actually listening and consuming the content. Thank you very much for this. And I'm still waiting for my friends in the US. I'm waiting to see the podcast somehow. Even I'm happy with 200, but at least let's do the first breakthrough. And thank you also for the support on launching the book last month, From Nowhere to Next. You can grab it from Amazon.com. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.